Captain Todd navigated the choppy waters off the coast of Somalia, unaware of the peril closing in. Suddenly, the calm was shattered by the unmistakable thud of grappling hooks hitting the ship's side. Pirates, armed and ready for plunder, swiftly boarded the vessel. Little did they know, Captain Todd had a surprising ace up his sleeve. But as the pirates advanced, their confidence began to waver when they realized the cargo they sought wasn't what it seemed. Todd had been fearing for this moment for a long time. He had been very aware that his trading route was going through somewhat dangerous territories. His superiors had always assured him not to worry, and that attacks or other hijackings were a thing of the past. But Todd had never experienced this to be all that reassuring, and now he was finally proven right-armed men were scaling the side of his boat. He had weapons on board to defend himself, but the last thing he wanted to do was turn this into a firefight. He knew that the best plan was to just surrender, let these guys take the boat, and have his superiors deal with it afterward. But Todd could not be sure that these pirates were going to leave everybody alive in that case either. And he had a duty to protect his crew. Time was ticking away as the men were getting ever closer to the edge of his container ship. Todd had to think quickly now and make a decision. Suddenly, he felt a surge of confidence. A plan had come into his head, and he could not help but make him smile a bit. If these pirates wanted it, they could get it. He knew this ship better than they would ever be able to. He quickly grabbed the microphone and then shouted a message over the intercom of the ship. He demanded that every person of the crew come to the cafeteria below deck. He also informed them that pirates were coming on board. After that, he quickly turned off the ship and stopped from sailing further. It was at the mercy of the ocean now. Just as Todd wanted to, he just hoped that he had been in time with his warning to the crew. He was horrified by the idea that any of them would encounter one of these pirates and get kidnapped or worse. But he was strengthened by the knowledge that the crew was mostly not working on deck at these hours. They should all be able to escape those encounters. While all the crew members were following Captain Todd's orders and headed to the cafeteria, the pirates made their way on board the container ship. There was a group of 5 of them, armed with old AK-47s and dressed in simple clothing. They did not look all too organized, but by how they had managed to get to the boat undetected, you could conclude that they had done this before. But they had never been on a ship this big, not even close. And when they had all set foot on board, they were fairly unsure of where to begin. They knew it was impossible to get this ship to their harbor and take everything from it. It was simply too big and too much. But they had made their way onto the ship now. They had done the hard part, and they still wanted to leave with as much as possible. The pirates, under the leadership of Captain Jack, as he called himself, quickly came up with a plan. They wanted to try and get the most valuable items on this ship. Small things that they could transport and sell for a lot of money. One member of the crew also came up with the idea to tell other pirates about their capture so that they could help. But that idea was quickly shut down by Jack. He was not about to share his hard work, and it was not like these other pirates were exactly trustworthy. He barely trusted his own crew. They would probably want those most valuable items for themselves. This was something the 5 of them were going to do. But to successfully pull this off, they needed to get their hands on some of the crew members, people who knew the ship. But it was very quiet around them. They did not even hear the motor of the boat anymore, and when they looked in the water, they could see that the ship was not moving anymore. They had heard that there was an announcement made, but they were busy climbing at this moment, and you could not even call their understanding of the English language decent. The pirates decided to split up into a pairing of 2 and 3 to cover more ground on their hunt for crew members. They were going to be quiet, as nobody would come towards them, if they were calling and threatening to kill them otherwise. It seemed like a fine plan, but what the pirates did not know was that Captain Todd had been watching them ever since they got on the boat. Todd never left the control room, and as he had a perfect view of their movement from here, and he could not be happier when he saw that they were splitting up. That was going to make his plan so much easier. Now he could first deal with that team of 2 and then focus on the 3 pirates left. But he first had to make sure everything was ready. Todd had radioed to 2 of his second-in-commands to lock all the other crew members in the cafeteria and then come to the control room to meet him. They just came walking through the door, and now their plan could really begin. These pirates were not going to know what hit them. The man quickly left the room to set up their trap. The 2 pirates walking the deck of the ship were getting more and more unsure by the minute. They had no idea where to look and were afraid that they would get ambushed any minute. They were also confused as to why Captain Jack had ordered them to go together. Both of them were very, very new to this line of work and had never been on a ship anywhere close to this size before. In the ship's control room, Captain Todd and his second-in-command, a veteran sailor named Harris, swiftly sketched out a plan, their eyes darting over the ship's blueprint spread across the table. They decided to exploit the ship's intricate layout, setting up a trap in the cargo hold where faint clattering sounds, subtly amplified, could attract the unsuspecting pirates. In the dimly lit cargo hold, Todd's crew worked silently, stringing up cargo nets and installing hidden alarms, creating a non-lethal snare around a strategically chosen crate. The tension was palpable as each crew member understood their role in this high-stakes game of cat and mouse, their movements precise and coordinated under the dim overhead lights. Outside, the 2 nervous pirates, Ahmed and Yusuf, their AK-47s clutched tightly, crept towards the sound, mistaking the clattering for hidden crew members. Each step was tentative, their eyes scanning the shadows, hearts racing with a mix of fear and anticipation as they moved closer to the source of the noise. Peering into the crate, their eyes widened in disbelief at the sight of shiny new smartphones, a stark contrast to the rustic weapons in their hands. Greed momentarily overcame their caution, as they forgot their initial mission, mesmerized by the glistening gadgets that promised a fortune far beyond their wildest dreams. Hidden from view, Todd and his team, hearts pounding, watched the pirates through a small gap. They waited for the perfect moment to act, the trap set with meticulous care. Every second felt like an eternity, as the pirates, now completely engrossed in their find, became increasingly oblivious to the impending danger lurking just a few steps away. The lure of the smartphones proved too strong for Ahmed and Yusuf, who, in a state of near delirium, began stuffing their pockets with the devices, their minds clouded by visions of wealth. Each phone they grabbed, shimmering under the faint light, pulled them deeper into Todd's carefully orchestrated trap, their caution lost in a sea of greed. Their voices, hushed but excited, echoed through the cargo hold as they discussed their unexpected jackpot, completely unaware that every word was being overheard. "This is our big break, Yusuf," Ahmed whispered with a greedy glint in his eye, their conversation filled with dreams of riches, oblivious to the fact that they were not alone in their fortune-finding fantasy. Perched in his hidden lookout, Captain Todd kept a watchful eye on the 2 pirates, his hand steady on the trap's control. He observed their every move with the precision of a chess master, calculating the perfect moment to strike. His experience at sea had honed his instincts, now guiding him in this game of strategy and suspense. Engrossed in their plunder, the pirates failed to notice the subtle changes around them. The quiet click of a door locking behind them went unheard, their attention wholly consumed by the gleam of technology in their grasp. Each passing second brought them closer to their fate, yet they remained blissfully unaware of the net closing in around them. With a swift and silent signal, Todd gave the go-ahead. In an instant, the doors to the crate slammed shut, the sound of locking bolts echoing through the hold. Ahmed and Yusuf, caught mid-celebration, were now prisoners within a cage of their own greed. Todd's trap had worked flawlessly, the first part of his plan executed with perfect precision. In the dim cargo hold, Todd's crew exhaled collectively, a wave of relief washing over them as they confirmed the two pirates were securely locked away. This success was a vital first victory, a crucial step in neutralizing the threat. Yet they remained acutely aware that the most dangerous part of their ordeal still loomed ahead. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of the crew's mess hall, Todd quickly convened a huddle. With urgency in his voice, he outlined their next move, his crew's eyes locked on him, understanding the gravity of their situation. "We've got the upper hand now, but we must stay sharp," he urged, his gaze steady and commanding. Todd moved with purpose back to the control room, ensuring every possible communication device in the crate was jammed. He was determined that no word of their success would reach Captain Jack, leaving him in the dark and increasingly isolated. This tactical move was critical in maintaining their advantage and safeguarding the crew from any potential backlash. Eyes fixed on the ship's surveillance monitors, Todd watched Captain Jack and his remaining crew like a hawk stalking its prey. The grainy black and white images flickered with each movement, providing Todd with real-time intelligence. His mind raced, analyzing their patterns, predicting their next move, preparing to counter it. Gathering his crew once more, Todd's tone was firm yet calm. "Stay out of sight. Stay safe. We're not through this yet." He stressed the importance of their stealth, knowing well that their lives depended on the element of surprise. Every crew member nodded in solemn agreement, disappearing into their hiding spots, ready for the next phase. In the hushed confines of the control room, Todd reached for the radio, his voice low and steady as he contacted the Coast Guard. He relayed their dire situation with the calm of a seasoned captain, his words concise, painting a clear picture of the danger aboard the vessel. Over the static-filled line, Todd detailed the scenario. Two pirates were captured, but the larger threat of Captain Jack and his armed crew was still at large on the ship. His report was methodical, highlighting the urgency of their need for assistance while maintaining a veneer of control over the precarious situation. With the message sent, a tense silence enveloped the control room. Todd and his crew waited, the weight of each passing second heavy in the air. Their eyes flicked to the radio, willing it to crackle to life with a response, the uncertainty of their fate hanging in the balance. Despite having reached out for help, Todd was acutely aware that the situation was far from resolved. He constantly surveyed the monitors, his mind racing with strategies, prepared to act at a moment's notice. The knowledge that Captain Jack could make a move at any time kept them all on a razor's edge. Finally, the radio buzzed to life with the Coast Guard's response. They acknowledged the precariousness of the situation and were devising an approach plan, aiming to board the ship with minimal escalation. Their words brought a glimmer of hope, yet Todd knew the most dangerous part of their ordeal might still lie ahead. Captain Jack, his brow furrowed in suspicion, led his remaining men through the ship's corridors with increased caution. The absence of Ahmed and Yusuf was alarming. Their silence on the radio was out of character, and Jack's instincts told him something was amiss. He motioned for his men to move quietly, his eyes scanning every shadow. As they moved deeper into the ship, the eerie silence weighed heavily on them. The lack of response from their comrades was unsettling, creating a palpable tension that hung in the air. Captain Jack's grip tightened around his weapon, his senses heightened, aware that they were potentially walking into a trap. Room by room they searched, finding no sign of Ahmed or Yusuf. With each empty room, their alertness grew. It was as if their mates had vanished into thin air. Captain Jack's frustration mounted, his mind racing through possibilities, but each was more unsettling than the last. From his vantage point, Todd watched Captain Jack's every move, analyzing his tactics. He knew outsmarting Jack, a seasoned and cunning pirate, would require a careful blend of patience and ingenuity. Todd's mind worked overtime, piecing together a plan that would neutralize the threat without jeopardizing his crew. In a quiet corner of the control room, Todd briefed his crew. "We can't underestimate Jack," he warned, his voice low and serious. They needed a plan that accounted for Jack's experience and unpredictability. Todd outlined a strategy that required precision and timing, his crew listening intently, understanding the stakes were higher than ever. In the echoing corridors of the ship, Captain Jack's frustration boiled over into aggression. With a scowl etched deep on his face, he fired his AK-47 into the steel ceiling, the loud bangs reverberating throughout the vessel. His actions were driven by a mix of anger and desperation, a dangerous combination in such volatile circumstances. Emboldened by their leader's display, the remaining pirates unleashed a volley of gunfire into the air. The sharp cracks of their rifles were a clear message intended to instill fear. They hoped the noise would flush out any hiding crew members, not realizing they were only revealing their own positions. Captain Jack's voice boomed through the ship's corridors, issuing threats and commands in an attempt to assert dominance over the situation. "Come out, or we'll find you," he bellowed, his voice laced with menace. The ship seemed to shudder under the weight of his threats, the tension escalating with each passing moment. In stark contrast to the chaos unfolding outside, Todd remained a picture of calm in the control room. His eyes never left the surveillance screens, his mind racing yet focused. He knew that maintaining composure was key to outmaneuvering Captain Jack, and he quietly relayed instructions to his crew, his voice a steady anchor amidst the storm. Captain Jack paced the deck, his frustration mounting with each fruitless search. The lack of progress in finding his crew or any valuable cargo was driving him to the edge of desperation. He knew that time was running out, and with it, his chances of maintaining control over the rapidly unraveling situation. In a decisive moment, Captain Todd resolved to confront Captain Jack alone. He believed a direct, solitary approach might diffuse the situation, avoiding further violence. His decision, bold and risky, stemmed from a deep responsibility for his crew's safety and a belief in his ability to negotiate a peaceful end to the standoff. The crew, upon hearing Todd's plan, exchanged worried glances, their faces etched with concern. Despite their apprehensions, they trusted Todd's judgment, a trust born of many voyages and shared experiences. With nods of reluctant agreement, they continued to secure the ship's various compartments, each action reinforcing their faith in their captain's strategy. Todd equipped himself with non-lethal tools, his strategy to outsmart rather than engage in a physical fight with Captain Jack. He selected a stun gun and handcuffs, tools that would aid in incapacitating without causing harm. His approach reflected his belief in resolving conflicts through wit and strategy, rather than brute force. Aware of the risks, Todd steered his course towards Captain Jack's last known location, his steps measured and silent. Each stride was taken with a blend of caution and determination, his mind alert to every sound and movement aboard the ship. This calculated risk was a testament to his leadership, balancing the safety of his crew with the need to end the crisis. As Todd moved closer to Jack's position, A tense, uneasy silence enveloped the ship. The usual creaks and groans of the vessel seemed to quiet, as if the ship itself held its breath. This silence was a stark contrast to the earlier chaos, creating an atmosphere heavy with anticipation and the unknown. Rounding a corner, Todd came face to face with Captain Jack and his men. With a steady gait and an unwavering gaze, he stepped into their line of sight. The pirates, surprised by his sudden appearance, raised their weapons, but Todd's calm demeanor suggested a man not easily intimidated, even in the face of imminent danger. Held at gunpoint, Todd's voice was calm and controlled as he spoke. "I can lead you to the ship's most valuable cargo." His offer, laced with a hint of feigned subservience, was designed to buy time and lower their guard. His eyes, however, remained alert, scanning for any sudden movement. Captain Jack's eyes narrowed, suspicion and greed warring within him. The promise of valuable loot was tempting, but his instincts warned him of potential deceit. After a tense moment of contemplation, he nodded, agreeing to follow Todd, but kept his weapon trained on him, a silent warning of his lingering mistrust. Todd led the way, weaving through the ship's maze of containers. Each step was deliberate, guiding them deeper into his trap. He maintained a steady pace, giving nothing away, while internally he was acutely aware of every sound, every shadow that played across the walls of the cargo hold. They arrived at the designated area, a seemingly innocuous spot amidst the labyrinth of cargo. With a subtle signal, unseen by the pirates, Todd alerted his hidden crew. The tension was palpable, every crew member poised for action, the culmination of their carefully laid plan mere moments away. Todd led the pirates to a crate, artfully chosen, filled to the brim with glittering jewelry. The sight of the treasure sparked a gleam in the pirates' eyes. Two of them, unable to resist the lure, hastily began filling their bags, their attention completely diverted from Todd, who watched them closely, biding his time. While the pirates were preoccupied, Captain Jack's attention was caught by another crate, this one marked as containing high-value electronics. As he leaned over to inspect it, Todd seized the moment. With a quick push, he sent Captain Jack tumbling into a concealed hole on the deck, where crew members lay in wait to overpower him. The moment Captain Jack disappeared into the trap, Todd's crew sprung into action. They emerged from their hiding spots, moving swiftly and silently. Caught off guard, the remaining pirates stood little chance against the well-coordinated team, who quickly subdued them, each movement precise and practiced. The crew worked together seamlessly, their movements a testament to their training and unity. In a matter of moments, they had the remaining pirate under control, his arms secured firmly behind his back. The deck, once a scene of tense standoff, was now under the complete control of Todd and his crew. With the pirates neutralized, Todd led his team in a thorough sweep of the ship. They moved methodically from bow to stern, ensuring no other threats lurked aboard. Each corridor and cabin was checked, and each door was secured. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Todd moved through the ship with a sense of urgency, ensuring the safety and well-being of every crew member. He checked in with each one, his voice a reassuring presence in the wake of the chaos. Once satisfied that all were accounted for and unharmed, he turned his attention to assessing the situation in preparation for the Coast Guard's imminent arrival. On the horizon, the silhouette of the Coast Guard cutter became visible, cutting through the waves towards the ship. The sight of the approaching vessel brought a collective sense of relief to the crew. As it neared, Todd prepared to transfer control of the situation, the weight of responsibility gradually lifting from his shoulders. Upon the Coast Guard's boarding, Todd led them to where the pirates were detained. One by one, the pirates were handed over, including Captain Jack, who still seemed dazed by the swift turn of events. His expression, one of surprise and disbelief, was a stark contrast to his earlier confidence and aggression. The Coast Guard officers conducted a thorough debriefing with Todd and his crew. They listened intently as Todd recounted the events, nodding in appreciation of the crew's resourcefulness and courage. Their words of gratitude echoed through the ship, acknowledging the crew's bravery and the critical role they played in averting a potential disaster.